Long before Rome whispered her name with fear, long before senators avoided making eye contact when she entered a room, long before emperors began questioning who truly ruled the empire, Agrippina the Younger learned one lesson before she learned anything else. In Rome, family could kill you faster than enemies. She was born into the most powerful bloodline on earth. Her father was the celebrated General Germanicus, adored by soldiers, loved by citizens, and widely believed to be Rome's future. Her mother, Agrippina the Elder, carried enough influence to frighten senators. Her grandfather was none other than Augustus, the man who transformed Rome forever. To the outside world, Agrippina was born into perfection. Inside the imperial household, she was born into a cage made of gold. As a child, she watched nobles smile during public ceremonies, then poison one another in private. She watched marriages built for power collapse into exile. She watched brothers become rivals, sisters become bargaining tools, and mothers become political liabilities overnight. And then, she watched her father die. Officially, Rome called it illness. Officially, the empire called it fate. But inside the palace, no one believed that, because in imperial Rome, powerful men rarely died naturally, and powerful families rarely forgot. Agrippina was still young, but she was already learning the first rule of survival. Never react. Observe. She listened to whispered conversations behind marble walls. She noticed which servants suddenly disappeared, which guards were replaced, which senators stopped visiting, which letters were burned before sunrise. And slowly, the frightened little girl inside the palace stopped being frightened. She started becoming dangerous. By her teenage years, Rome no longer saw a child. Some saw beauty, some saw ambition. But the people who truly understood imperial politics saw something far more unsettling. They saw a young woman who was paying attention, and in Rome, that alone could get you killed or make you unstoppable. By the time Agrippina the Younger entered adulthood, Rome already understood one dangerous truth. She was not easy to control. She carried the blood of Augustus, the legacy of Germanicus, and the political instincts of a woman who had spent her childhood watching powerful people disappear. And in imperial Rome, blood could make you valuable, but intelligence could make you threatening. When her brother, Caligula, rose to power, much of Rome celebrated. Citizens filled the streets. Soldiers praised his family name. Senators smiled, some from hope, many from fear. Agrippina smiled too. But unlike most of Rome, she was watching. At first, Caligula trusted his sisters. He brought them into public ceremonies, allowed their names to appear beside his, granted them wealth, visibility, and influence that shocked even seasoned senators. To outsiders, it looked like affection. Inside the palace, it looked like surveillance. Because in Rome, emperors rarely keep powerful relatives close out of love. They keep them close, so they can watch them. And Caligula watched everything. Who Agrippina spoke to, who visited her chambers, which generals greeted her first, which senators lowered their voices when she entered. And slowly, what began as family visibility turned into imperial suspicion. Then came the accusations, conspiracy, loyalty violations, private alliances, dangerous ambitions. Officially, Rome framed it as treason. Unofficially, it looked like something simpler. Caligula had begun fearing his own blood. Agrippina was arrested, stripped of status, stripped of visibility, stripped of comfort, and sent away from Rome. For many noblewomen, exile meant political death, isolation, humiliation, irrelevance. But exile does strange things to ambitious people. It removes distraction. It removes ceremony. It removes the illusion that anyone is coming to save you. And in that silence, Agrippina became sharper, far sharper. Away from marble halls and public ceremonies, she studied something she had never fully understood before. Men, not their words, not their promises, not their titles, their weaknesses. She watched soldiers drink away discipline. Governors mistake attention for loyalty. Aristocrats confuse desire with trust. And slowly, Agrippina began understanding something Rome had never prepared for. Beauty could open doors, but intimacy could open empires. And when Rome finally allowed her to return, the woman stepping back into the capital was far more dangerous than the girl it had tried to humiliate. When Agrippina the Younger returned to Rome, the city barely recognized her. The frightened girl who had once watched powerful men whisper behind marble walls was gone. The exiled noblewoman who had been sent away in disgrace no longer existed. The woman who returned had learned patience, and in imperial Rome, patience can be more dangerous than ambition. By now, the empire had a new ruler, Claudius. To the public, Claudius seemed unlikely, scholarly, careful, often underestimated. A man many aristocrats believed could be influenced, redirected, or quietly managed by stronger personalities around him. Agrippina noticed that immediately, but she also noticed something far more important. Claudius was lonely, and lonely rulers often make emotional decisions. Inside the imperial court, Agrippina did not rush. She never forced conversations, never demanded attention, never entered rooms like someone trying to be noticed. She entered like someone who already understood. Everyone would eventually notice. She listened. She laughed when others tried too hard. She remained silent when senators argued. She spoke only when timing mattered. And slowly, the emperor began asking for her presence. First during dinners, then private discussions, then military briefings, then, at night. Rome noticed. Of course Rome noticed. Servants whispered. Nobles exchanged looks. Senators began changing how they spoke around Claudius, because they understood something terrifying. Agrippina was no longer visiting the palace. She was becoming part of it. The marriage itself shocked many, not because powerful marriages were unusual in Rome, but because of who she was. Agrippina was Claudius's niece, and Roman law had to be adjusted before the union could even happen. That alone told Rome something dangerous. When laws begin changing for one woman, that woman is no longer following power. She is shaping it. After the marriage, the transformation was immediate. People who once had direct access to the emperor suddenly found doors closed. Military officers waited longer for audiences. Advisors were replaced. Household servants disappeared. Letters were intercepted. Meetings changed location. And slowly, without a single official announcement, Rome began noticing something deeply unsettling. Claudius still wore the crown, but Agrippina was beginning to wear the empire. By the time most of Rome realized what Agrippina the Younger was doing, it was already too late. because Agrippina had never entered the emperor's chambers simply to become empress. She had entered with a succession plan, and at the center of that plan stood her young son, Nero. To the public, Nero was still just another noble boy, educated, well-dressed, carefully trained, and quietly introduced into elite circles. But inside the imperial palace, Agrippina did not allow him to grow like an ordinary aristocratic child. Every tutor was selected. Every friend was observed. Every conversation was reported. Every lesson served one purpose: to create an emperor. But one obstacle remained. Claudius already had a biological son, Britannicus, and in Rome, blood mattered, but access often mattered more. Agrippina understood that better than anyone. First, she secured Nero's education. Then she arranged public appearances beside the emperor. Then came military ceremonies, public speeches, religious festivals, portraits, coins, sculptures, small things. But in Rome, small things shape public memory. Soon, people across the empire began seeing Nero's face before they ever heard his name. Soldiers noticed, merchants noticed, priests noticed, and most importantly, Claudius noticed. Slowly, almost invisibly, Agrippina turned affection into obligation. She praised Nero's intelligence in private conversations. She compared his discipline to legendary Roman heroes. She reminded Claudius how unstable succession could destroy dynasties. And eventually, she asked for the impossible: adoption. If Claudius formally adopted Nero, his son would no longer be just Agrippina's child. He would become part of the imperial bloodline itself. Many senators objected, privately, never publicly, because by now everyone understood something dangerous. Disagreeing with Agrippina had consequences, and when Claudius finally agreed, Rome celebrated. But inside the palace, some people stopped sleeping, because they understood something no official decree would ever admit. Agrippina had not simply secured her son's future. She had just moved the empire one step closer to removing everyone standing in his way. And the most dangerous obstacle of all was still alive, and still wearing the crown. When the news spread through Rome that Claudius was dead, the city reacted exactly as empires always do: public grief, sacred ceremonies, political speeches, military discipline, order, at least, on the surface. Because beneath that carefully managed calm, another emotion moved through Rome far faster than grief ever could: suspicion. Officially, Claudius had died from illness. Officially, age and weakness had finally caught up with him. Officially, Rome accepted the story. But privately, almost no one believed it, because the timing was impossible. Nero had just been positioned perfectly. Britannicus was still too young. Agrippina controlled palace access. Servants had been replaced. Food tasters had disappeared. Private physicians had changed. And suddenly, the emperor was dead. Ancient writers would later describe poisoned mushrooms, secret dinners, quiet instructions, controlled panic, conflicting testimonies, missing servants. Some accounts may be exaggerated. Some may be political propaganda. But one fact remains undeniable. The moment Claudius died, Agrippina was ready. There was no confusion, no succession crisis, No military hesitation. Before sunrise, palace guards were already aligned. Senators were already informed. Key officers had already been briefed. And young Nero was already being prepared to enter public view. That kind of speed does not happen by accident. And Rome knew it. When Nero was declared emperor, the crowd cheered. But inside the Senate, some men remained silent, because they understood something terrifying. The boy wearing the crown was not the most powerful person in Rome. His mother was. For a brief moment in imperial history, Agrippina achieved something almost unimaginable. She was not officially emperor, not officially consul, not officially general, and yet she controlled them all. So when people ask why Rome feared Agrippina more than many emperors, the answer may be darker than legend. She didn't conquer Rome with armies. She didn't rule Rome through law. She ruled Rome through intimacy, through access, through timing, through fear, and perhaps most dangerously of all, through family.